Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast. With me, as always, your co-host, Kirk.
Hello, hello.
Did you like the pausing for dramatic effect?
I did. It gave me chills.
I waited until you made a face. I was like, I want this to make him uncomfy, you know? I really want him to feel it, and then it did, and I was thrilled with that. So I'm your other co-host, Cam, and we are here with you this week. Big week. John Wick Chapter 4 came out over the weekend.
Pew, 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 pew.
That's exactly what the sound effects sound like in that movie. If you haven't seen it yet, that's it right there. Pew, 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 pew.
The creative choice there was absolutely shocking.
It was shocking, and yet
it fit.
It fit because John Wick is nothing if not groundbreaking. You know, like I think years ago, or even a little bit whenever the first movie came out, people kind of didn't fully know what to think of it because it was so unabashedly just a high octane action movie. Like if you look at it, I would say that John Wick Chapter 1. Of the first three, I won't show my hand, but of the first three, was my favorite, just because I find it to be so groundbreaking and so grounded because it's starting at the beginning and things like that. But if you go back and look at reviews on like IMDb and stuff like that, you can find some older ones where people are like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like I feel like I should think this is cheesy, but I love it. It's like it was kind of ahead of its time.
It was. I really think that the choice to add the Sesame Street characters and the Muppets in this one really blew my mind, though. The pew, 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 the Muppets. I mean, the fact that we were in space, it really was a different color on John Wick altogether.
It's definitely, Kirk, it's supposed to be spoiler free. It's supposed to be spoiler. No. Gosh, dang it, Kirk.
Oh, I'm so
but
sorry. But
also, what were you expecting, Kirk? It's the fourth movie. I mean, they have to keep scaling up. There's only so far you can go, right? But
go big or go home. They got to keep up with Fast and the Furious.
They have to go to space. If Fast and the Furious goes to space, John Wick has to go to space. That's the rules. That's just the way that it is. So no, this will be a spoiler-free review of John Wick 4, and this will be the only episode of Popcorn for Breakfast this week. So know what's popping this week. There's not a ton going on from a news perspective. There's a couple of little things. There's obviously, the elephant in the room is the Jonathan Majors allegations that are going on right now. But Kirk and I kind of huddled up on that, and we're just thinking it is very early on that. And oftentimes, whenever you try to have a take on something like this that is still a developing situation, you end up looking pretty silly. So we don't want to give a take one way or the other until we know what's going on, but just hoping that, whoever is the victim and whatever the situation, that it gets sorted out and that justice is served and everyone is good and safe and healthy and moving on. So that'll be where we leave that for now. Though I know we have certainly sang the praises of Jonathan Majors on this podcast for his work on the screen. And so that is something that we will address if, as it kind of develops and as the dust settles. But right now, it's just kind of still too nebulous to know what is actually happening there. But
that's right. We want to get all the information. We don't want to look like there's, egg, as they say, on our face, because that's just silly. Then we got to retcon stuff. So we're going to gather the information. We're going to collect the data. Collect it with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
And then we're going to talk about it afterwards.
Because if you're ever on Twitter when one of these things happens and there are, somebody's arrested for something or what have you, and certainly during like the Ezra Miller stuff when that was going on, and even during the Will Smith slap situation, the hot take machine gets rolling and everybody has all these opinions. And then as the night goes on or as the days pass, more information comes out. And sometimes it adds clarity to your original position, and that's great. Good for you. Lucky. And sometimes it just makes you look like an idiot. So
did we learn nothing from 12 Angry Men?
I know.
Look at the evidence.
Right.
Come on. So we'll find out.
And we'll be watching it and we'll be posting about it as relevant. So we're still gonna cover it here, but not for now, not for this week. For this week, we're going to focus on John Wick Chapter 4. We're going to be dishing out a spoiler-free review. So if you haven't been with us in a couple of weeks and you're like, wait, spoiler-free? Yeah, we are going back to spoiler-free reviews. We feel good about that. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. We got it kicked off with Shazam last week, and we're going to do it again this week. So let's get into it, Kirk. John Wick Chapter 4.
Don't forget, tease the game so they stay the whole time.
Oh, yeah, of course. Kirk has a game. And your game is called?
Body Count.
Ooh. And if you've ever seen a John Wick movie, which I think most people have at this point, bodies, there are many. There are many bodies that are hitting the floor. And in this particular movie, many hundreds of stuntmen were thrown down many sets of stairs. So I can't even imagine how many there were. So I'm expecting your game to have as many bodies as the John Wick series.
You know, like, this is not a spoiler, but you know, like in the Mario games where like Shy Guy pops up, like there's like thousands of Shy Guys that keep popping up out of tunnels. Yeah. Like, and you can't keep up with them. I imagine that the stuntmen in John Wick were just popping up and then rolling down.
They just have a whole bunch of them. They come out of like an elevator through the floor, and they just throw them down the stairs. Exactly. Until they get the aesthetic that they want. It's absolutely absurd.
So many stuntmen, so many stairs.
There are so many times when I watch a John Wick movie that I think, did John Wick kill more people than he said words in this movie? Like, were there more people killed by him than words that came out of his mouth? And honestly, with a lot of them, it feels like it has to be close.
We have to go back and do the count.
Do the count. Count it up. Man, it's the best. Action movies for the win. But yeah, let's get into it. John Wick Chapter 4. We've been waiting forever. So forever for this movie. It was supposed to come out. Kirk, was it last May or was it the May before that?
Well, I don't know anymore. It was either going to come out on your birthday in 2020 or your birthday in 2021. I don't know which one.
I think it was going to come out on my birthday in 2021, and then it got delayed to 22, and then they delayed it a whole nother year.
Yeah, just weird.
Disaster. So it's kind of, it was a little bit surreal, like walking into the theater knowing that we were seeing this, especially since you and I kind of talked, and we had never seen a John Wick movie in theaters because we had both just been watching it on digital all these years. I don't really know why that's the case, but here we are. So this was the first time we both got to see a John Wick movie in theaters, and now we're going to get into our spoiler-free review. The one caveat I will give you is that it's spoiler-free for Chapter 4. There will almost certainly, like specifically in the synopsis that I'm about to give, be spoilers for Chapter 3. So if you haven't seen Chapter 3, and its predecessors, then watch out for that. But otherwise, it is spoiler free for this movie. So let me get into it with the synopsis. So John Wick Chapter 3 really ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. He has been shot by Winston and fallen off of a building, basically left for dead. The high table, John Wick, I think actually at the end of Chapter 2 is issued excommunicado from the whole high table organization and spends all of the third movie in that status and is still in that status in this movie. So he is trying to turn the table on the high table and just basically finish his revenge tour. And the only way he sees the ability to do that is to take down the entire high table. So now you've got, at the end of the third movie, Winston and the Bowery King sort of teaming up. They've decided we're going to take on the high table, and they're basically John's only allies in like the entire world at this point, and everyone else is trying to kill him because the number that's on his head that's been decided by the high table is extremely high. So that is effectively where we're at in this movie. And John Wick quickly finds himself just in a whole heap of trouble. He's trying to find places to go, places he can find refuge. And he is, I think it's safe to say, this is sort of like the most vengeful version of John Wick that we have ever seen at the beginning of this movie, because now he feels like, he had to get shot by Winston just so Winston could keep his position at the Continental. And now it's like, well, there's only one way that all of this is going to end, and it's if I burn the whole thing down, and he's like ready to go. So I don't feel like I can say too much more on the synopsis without giving much away, but that's effectively where we're at. I mean, he finds himself early in the film at the Osaka Continental and kind of links up with some old friends. There are lots of old friends throughout the movie, but that's the the table setting for this one.
That's the funniest part of it. It's like, this is the time teaming up with Lawrence Fishburne and, goodness, I can't remember his name, but of course, Winston, the hotel manager of the New York Continental. And yes, he does. He shoots him off the roof.
Yeah, Ian McShane. Sorry.
Ian McShane, thank you. And that is who the only people that will team up with him and move on, which is just like crazy. Like, if someone shot me off a roof, that's it. Like, I'm not coming back to that person, but Keanu, man, he's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. And I know he'll have my back. Like, I don't know when they talked after that, if it was like a couple days.
Yeah, unclear.
Whatever. But man, it was so crazy. Yeah, I don't understand. But I don't live in the John Wick verse, but maybe one day, maybe I can.
Yeah, it's basically like he just knew that Winston had to do what he had to do, and it's funny that like Winston could be like, all right, I have to do this. I'm going to shoot John Wick to keep my position, and then also I'm going to go work with the Bowery King to take down High Table. So he needs his position to be privileged in that whole cycle and to fly under the radar, but it's quite the web here. Let's get into this, Kirk. Whole new cast of characters in this movie. Lots of newcomers onto the scene. Nobody of the same star power as, say, like Halle Berry in the third movie, but there are lots of big names here. So let's talk about it first with "And the Oscar Goes To," which goes to our best actor in the movie, and I am going with Mr. John Wick himself, Keanu Reeves. I love this performance, and we were just talking about how he says very few words. I think I read that he actually was responsible for much of his own dialogue getting cut from this movie because he wanted to make sure he was being very deliberate about where John was at in this film, and so he had some say in the edit. And John Wick only says 380 words in the entirety of this 2 hour and 38-minute film. What I like about this performance is John Wick is just really as conflicted as he has ever been. I think he feels, he sort of starts the movie in this place of just vengeance at all costs. One-man band, I'm going all the way to the top. I'm doing it myself. I have to, because I don't want to put any of my acquaintances or any friends that I have left in this world at risk. But the movie starts with him doing something that I think was surprising and just kind of like set the tone for the entire film. And it's pretty high octane from that point on. But what I like about John Wick is he is a man of very, very simply principles. He has principles. He believes in right and wrong. And he is the one person who has the skill set and has the humanity in him to potentially take on the High Table and win. And that's why he is, inspiring to people like the Bowery King, people like Winston. They believe in this cause that he has created. And Keanu balances that so well because he's faced a ton of times in this movie faced with this situation where he's got one destination. He's going all the way to the end to finish this thing. And yet he has these little fleeting moments where he has a chance to do something, merciful or a human thing or whatever. Something where he gets in a situation where his revenge tour is at odds with his principles. And I love watching that tug and pull in him. You can see it all over his face, which was a new level for John Wick, I think, as a character in his arc, and for Keanu Reeves playing this character. This felt like John Wick's James Bond star power type movie, where it's like, all right, we all know who John Wick is, and now just watch the star power happen. Just watch the power of that character take over the film, and that's because Keanu just embodies this character in such a unique way. It's not flashy in terms of the types of things he's doing from an acting perspective. The movie is obviously very flashy, but it's consistent. It's super consistent as John Wick, and there's just something really endearing about it. And aside from all of that, there is, of course, as has been present in every single one of these films, insane fight choreography and stunt work that he's doing on top of it, because I think he did like 90% of his own stunts. The fight choreography is positively insane throughout this whole franchise, and definitely in this film. And that's part of an acting performance too. Hit your marks, look good doing it, and he does a masterclass in that. So for me, it's Keanu all the way.
Well, that's funny, because I also chose Mr. John Wick, Keanu Reeves himself. It's that simple. I mean, when you go and see this movie, can you really actually think about seeing this with any other actor in the main role? The answer is absolutely not. What's so great about this character, and I thought to myself, like, why do I like watching this movie? Why do I like watching this franchise? Why would anyone else like watching this franchise? Yeah, there's explosions, there's knife throws, there's gunfire, there's near misses, there's near death experiences, but you get to do it at the safety of your couch or theater. Why do we enjoy this? Well, it's because we like to imagine that if we were in that mode, if we were in fight or flight, we like to imagine ourselves as the hero. And we like to imagine that we would be the hero fighting for the right cause. And just as Cam said, this is someone who has the right principles and strong values, mores, whatever. And getting to see that visually to the nth degree is so exciting, and it just makes you want more and more. And that's what each episode of this, John Wick Chapter 1, John Wick Chapter 2, John Wick 3, Parabellum, and this, it elevates to a new level every single time. What I also have said time and time again is that I really am looking for a performance that stands out when I give my "and the Oscar goes to." And typically I'm giving it to someone usually who does give the most thoughtful performance, who is very who puts in so much work. And as also, like Cam said, the way that this performance is, there's a lot of work there, but it's not like other characters who are also doing a good job, where they're really pushing to find those tactics. We know who John Wick already is, but we see a very different side of him in this film. I got the opportunity to watch all three of these before watching the fourth one. I watched them basically every night leading right up to John Wick 4, so that was pretty exciting. And what I remember from when I watched the streaming from my original viewing is that I wasn't a fan of the acting the first time that I watched each of these movies. And so I turned the first one on. I'm like, I know I love the action. I know the story is compelling. I love the idea of this secret underworld of values. And it is mafia-like. And I get to the scene where John's tied up in John Wick 1, and he says, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back." And I remember thinking that was overdone when I first saw it. And when I saw it the second time, I'm like, no, it's very good. It's very, very good. And so that's what as I watched the other ones back, I just saw how detailed and how incredibly structured the John Wick character is. And that is why it's right in front of our faces. It's done so well, and yet we can't even see the amount of artistry and hard work that Keanu is giving us until you rewatch these, which I'm excited to watch John Wick 4 a second time, hopefully in theaters, but if not, somewhere streaming or purchased, whatever, because I know I'm going to enjoy it that much more.
Bang on, man. I love it. That's good stuff. All right, let's talk about supporting roles. Oh man, this is a toughie. There were tons of new characters sort of teased in the promotional materials for this movie. The one I'm going with is awesomely the one that I was most excited about heading into this movie, which is my man, Mr. Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen. If you've listened to this podcast, if you're an OG listener, somebody who's been around since the beginning, or if you've ever talked to me about martial arts movies, first of all, I apologize. I really love martial arts movies. I love watching them. I think they're an absolute blast. But You have almost certainly heard me sing the praises of Donnie Yen if you've been involved in this show since the beginning, and that's because this dude is a beast. He is Bruce Lee. You know, he feels like my Bruce Lee, like just our generation's best martial arts actor, someone with insane physical abilities and just unimaginable, unfathomable amounts of swag. This dude is just he has the charm, he has the polish, all of it. Star power. It really comes down to that. He has the it factor, and that's really all you need to know about Donnie Yen. He brings it in this movie, and I didn't know when the next time I was going to get to see a legit Donnie Yen martial arts performance or action movie performance. I know he was in Mulan, and I really enjoyed him in that movie, but I wanted something more, and I really wanted him to be able to shine, and this was it, man. He was all over this thing, putting his imprint all over this movie. He was making just insane physical combat maneuvers. He was also just an incredible character actor in this movie. He had a character chiseled out here. He played it to a T. He was cocky, but he had layers, and it was a full-blown, really good acting performances. I think he's most well known for the Ip Man franchise of martial arts films. That's sort of his big franchise. And, that character is so incredible, but is also so reserved. And this character was sort of a different side of Donnie Yen that I was really excited to see. There was an added layer that his character is blind, and so a lot of his combat involved that mechanical difference to it. And he just really took that intentionally. And I know the director, obviously the stunt crew, everybody was working really closely with him on that, but it was really thoughtful, and they did it in a way that made a ton of sense, and I just loved it. I think Donnie Yen is just so freaking cool, and he brought the exact right energy to this movie, and I couldn't get enough. I wanted more all the way to the very end.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Academy has agreed once again, Donnie Yen for my scene stealer. I am someone who has not watched the Ip Man series, which brought Donnie Yen to the forefront. I also was a huge martial arts fan as a kid. Mostly I leaned in on the Jackie Chan films. In fact, I just even started watching the most recent Police Story sequel. I mean, I just love, I love those stories. I love that type of artistry of fighting. There really is an art to it, a beauty of it. So I was very excited to finally not be forced, but it's hard when you have so much hype on a movie. Like Cam has been saying, watch Ip Man, watch Ip Man, watch Ip Man. And I haven't done it because he needs to stop telling me to do it, because it's going to force me not to watch it. But now I'm going to watch it now that I got a chance to see him in full force action like this. He's really quite incredible. So on the flip side of, in most cases, I would have chosen him for how layered his performance is, right? But Keanu took the cake for me on this one. Donnie Yen is able to balance this very, he's lost everything in the world is where we find Donnie Yen, and to a point where it's comical at times because of how careless he is when we see Donnie Yen fight characters throughout this film. It's almost like, speaking of Jackie Chan, almost like The Drunken Master, where he's finding found objects, he's barreling through and just taking people out left and right. It's very exciting because you're like, how in the world does this man survive in this? How is he going to be still in this underworld of mafia hitmen and this code, and how is he going to be successful at it and not just be eliminated immediately? And it's very exciting to watch that play out. It's very it keeps you on your toes for sure, because every bit of it from the start to the finish, how he survives is an absolute anomaly, and I love every moment of it. Donnie Yen brings an absolute just electrifying jolt to this franchise that you didn't think you need. It's always a risk when you add someone, a new character every single time with every single installment of a film franchise. And he definitely stepped up to the plate. He knew and understood this world, and it was very refreshing and gave the right relationship structure to John Wick himself. So great job, Donnie, getting the scene stealer ×2.
Dude, yes. I mean, what I love about it a lot is that, you know, the director, Chad Stahelski Stahelski and his team, they didn't this wasn't a gimmick, you know, with Donnie Yen. And it could have been. You know, I think a lot of lesser people would have just been like, well, we got to get Donnie Yen. We got the money for it. We're bringing in Donnie Yen. He's a martial arts guy. We'll just let him do his thing. Like, no, they brought him in and then they knew how they wanted to use him and they let him do his thing. And that's awesome because I think there has to be structure and there has to be design, and that was clearly there. So I was so happy. So happy. All right, let's move into the production side of these movies. I mean, if you've seen a John Wick movie, they are known for a very iconic visual aesthetic, you know, beautiful color grading, really cool, stylish cinematography, as well as editing and fight choreography that's insane, stunt work that's insane, found object fighting, all kinds of things. So we're probably going to get into one of those things, but that's what we're going to be looking at. Like, does this stack up with some of the others, or does it exceed it? Let's start with Showstopper, which is the thing that blew us away the most, the best thing in our opinion. In my opinion, it's the lighting. I have to go with the lighting this time. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And storytelling through lighting, which is really cool. The budget of this movie was much larger than any of the previous John Wick movies, which is interesting because these movies have never done super duper well in theaters. They've done well, but they've never been like billion-dollar films or anything like that, but they have done really well on VOD and as kind of word of mouth grows about these movies and things like that. And so they got a bigger budget this time, and man, did they put it to work with tons of great practical effects, massive set pieces and different filming locations and things like that they could use that were probably expensive. But for me, it's the lighting, the way they rigged up the lighting, the way they used the lighting. It's constant, you know, I talked about earlier how John Wick doesn't say that many words. Well, he doesn't have to because all the context is there. And so many of the different ways that they tell the story is through color and through shading and lighting and the way that they show light reflecting off of different characters' faces or show light behind characters, show them as silhouettes, and they're telling a story with that. And it's really interesting because sometimes with the lighting, they're not ready to tell you the whole thing. They're ready to tell you where the character's at right now, but not necessarily where they're going in sort of a foreshadowing way. But I just really liked it. There's one scene that I can think of in particular where you know, you're, in the John Wick universe, you're constantly walking up on people that you don't really know who they are. That, you know, they have to act like, oh, this is, you know, some old acquaintance, because in that world, that's what it is. And they can't, if they took time to explain it to us, it would make it goofy and silly, whatever. Well, in this movie, they use lighting to help tell that story and to help introduce us to characters. There's one time where they walk into this place in Germany, and there's a guy sitting at the end of the room, and you know nothing about this guy. You've just seen him. They haven't really said anything about him, but there's a light, like a series of lights behind him that, when the camera is angled just right, make it look like he's sitting in a throne. And so you're like, right away, you're like, okay, this is somebody of significance. And constantly at the beginning of the movie, when John Wick is just sort of in his blind with rage state or revenge mode, we see him in almost entirely red for good portions of the movie, depending on what he's doing and who he's talking to. So it's just insanely well done. It also looks great. The aesthetic of it is just extremely easy on the eyes and makes for a really enjoyable watching experience. So it's the lighting, bar none, for me that took it away in this one.
You're incredibly easy on the eyes, Cam.
Thanks, man. I needed that. I needed that this week.
You are. You look good on camera. You look good in that podcast chair.
Wish I could wink. I'd do one of those real cheesy, like,
hold on.
Ding.
You said you wish you could wink?
No, I can. I can technically wink, but it's not like, it's not an attractive wink. I can do it. It's just not like one of these.
Do it. I'll tell you. handsome.
There you go.
This is easy. I don't know why you doubt yourself. I'll keep mine short because this is a spoiler-free episode, but there is a battle scene in this film, and there is an aerial shot of this battle scene, something we've not seen before in this John Wick world. Oftentimes we're like, it almost feels like we are like in GoldenEye, N64, James Bond, GoldenEye, like almost like we're holding the gun most of the time, or right physically within the action, John Wick 1 through 3, and even in John Wick 4. But there is a sequence in this film where we see a fight play out where we are above it, and it is mesmerizing. Like, I don't know how I feel about it yet because I'm still processing it. And what's really cool about this scene, again, spoiler free, is that we get a taste of it, a very strong, lengthy taste of it. Then we cut back to what we're used to, and then we go back to that kind of shot. And my mind was blown. My mind was really blown. I didn't think that when we first cut to that shot that it would work. And man, did it work. It is very exciting, very satisfying, and just continues to creatively display how big, how active, and how visual this world is. So that's my showstopper.
Yeah, that was the scene where it was like the one time I vocalized anything to you during this entire movie. I just leaned over and was like, bro, with like the approving nod, because it was so sick. Yeah. And what's so cool is that during that whole scene, you're seeing people that John Wick is not yet aware of. You know, like you're seeing them run up on the other side of the wall, and he's on the, it's insane. It had to be such an impossibly hard series of shots to get. And I'm glad that you called that out because it just was so sick.
I will be tuning into John Wick Behind the Wick, the behind the scenes special.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know what they would call it. I was trying to think of something clever that's like a candle related pun, but I can't think of anything. Maybe it'll come to me as we go through the episode.
Yes, please.
Okay. We're going to move over to director's shoes now, which is the thing that we have notes for, things we would change or things we didn't really agree with in terms of the choices that were made. I think for me that, there's a lot of press about the runtime of this movie, and I feel that to an extent, but I don't want to simplify it down to it's just the runtime, because people are saying, it's too long. And this movie does feel noticeably longer than the rest of the movies in the John Wick franchise, and very few high-octane action movies are as long as this movie is, because it's kind of like horror where like you have to keep people on a knife's edge, and people can only physically be on a knife's edge for so long without them just being like, all right, I no longer feel suspense. That wasn't really so much my issue here. It was more that I actually felt like this movie was slightly, and this is not a huge critique, but slightly overstuffed with characters. Just like there were a few characters that they could have done without, that I expect will potentially come forward in potential spin-offs or sequels or what have you. And that was the reason that they were there. Because some of them, while they make it work and there's actually like a decent story contribution by those characters in the film, you could have told a cleaner story without them. So I will mostly leave it at that. It's not to the point where the movie is just like severely railroaded by that, but it's the fact that this is a very long movie, and it is kind of hard to keep your audience on that knife's edge for that long, and you're adding some filler in with your killer, and I think that they could have lightened up a little bit on that, in my opinion.
Very cool. Very good. I think that there are some scenes in this film that are kind of stoic, and I believe it also goes into effect with the overstuffing of characters. In fact, there's one particular character that could have been reduced down to, I don't know, 6 minutes of screen time, and I think they got a full half hour of screen time, and I don't agree with that choice. And all of the scenes with this character and a couple other sequences early on were just filled with a lack of intentional sound design. I really hate it when there is nothing going on. There's no characterization to the atmosphere that we're in. Like, there is literal silence between characters, and you can't hear air, you can't hear the wind, you can't hear a bird chirping, you can't hear a conversation of someone in the next room or shuffling. If you're in a big, let's say, mansion, as John Wick is often in, you can't hear people walking down the hall, whatever it might be. The sound design was off in a couple of scenes where there was critical conversation happening, but it was so silent that it took you out of it, because there is something that needs to be done to distract the audience. It doesn't have to be like someone, "Are you okay, John? In there, is everything okay?" Like, we don't need like another character, but we need a distraction to help engage us into this world. And that's the sound designer's job. And I feel like, again, 3 to 4 scenes of this, they dropped the ball, and a character that could have been reduced down to minutes or even completely removed and replaced with a different person, which you'll never know because this is a spoiler-free
ask us on Discord.
Exactly. So those are my director's shoes, as I am fully capable and I have all of the credentials to be one. So there it is.
Yeah, especially for multi-$100 million action film where the stunts are state of the art and things like that. I think you're ready to step into that role.
I mean, if you've ever seen my kids get into character and fight me, you would know that I am capable of
your coaching is happening. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, I mean, they're beating me up. I like that note because there is a delicate balance with these movies. There is only so much time with the way that this world is built and with the character choices that they've made. There's only so much time that you can stay in an extended sequence of dialogue before your time's up. It really feels like every time you're in one of those scenes, it's like, they use the hourglass in this movie. It's like start the hourglass because we got to get back into it soon. It's just the way that these things are constructed. So I like that note a lot. All right, final thoughts and scores. Let's do this thing. John Wick Chapter 4, and then we'll do a quick. If you're down, Kirk, we can do a quick ranking of the 4. It doesn't have to be your final ranking, but just where you're at right now.
I got my ranking.
These things shift.
And then we're gonna play a game that's gonna rock your world, Cam.
Yes, I'm ready for that. So my final thoughts. This to me is far and away the most visually appealing entry in the John Wick franchise. I thought they were still. They didn't rest on their laurels. There was still a lot of new elements they were bringing into the fold in this movie, some of which I don't want to mention just because they're such fun little surprises that if you're an action movie fan, it's one of those things that as you see it coming, you're like, oh, that's going to be cool, and it is. So I think the every single box that you expect to be checked by a John Wick movie, this movie checks it and then some in terms of really stylish editing, excellent music, really good lighting. The color grading is phenomenal. The cinematography is great. It's just from a technical perspective, it's really well done. All of the location, like filming locations and set design and production design, it's excellent. I just think I'm going down the rubric, checking every box on that front. I do think this movie, from a story perspective, is perhaps it's much more emotionally involved, I think, than previous entries have been, but it's not quite as tight as some of the others have been, and it's almost like more could have been done on that end of it to sort of make this thing feel a little bit tighter because I've tried so hard. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to play it safe, but I really do feel like it could have been a little bit tighter on the story front, on the character front, as I said, and that would have gone a really long way, and I think for me would have made it like the consensus number 1 John Wick movie. I'm not ready to go there right now. Still really loved it. Still can't wait to sink my teeth into it again. It was a lot to take in on a first viewing, so I'm eager to see how my opinion changes as I kind of live with this movie a little bit more and live with it as part of a franchise, because the one thing about this movie that I think, or one of the things I think is great about this movie is it's a great binge watch marathon mode entry, which John Wick already was. So this franchise is going to be a really great, rainy, cold weekend, throw all these on in rapid succession. It's just going to be super duper fun to do that. So I do really enjoy that. But for me, I'm going 8.8 on this movie. I think what really pushes it over and gets it super close to the 9 category is the technical prowess, which I thought was just out of this world. Just so fun, so stylish, and beautiful. So that's where I'm at, 8.8.
8.8. Beautiful. It's a beautiful score for a beautiful man. Let's just remind everyone out there that Cameron needs some encouragement.
Some emotional support.
And we're here for you, and we love you. Why we're talking about this during John Wick? I don't know. You would think that
I don't know. Listen, man, you brought us down this path. It's on you to rationalize at this point.
You would think it'd be like some indie or some best picture, like thoughtful, I don't know, whatever, or some kind of artistic film, which this is artistic, but it's just funny that it came on. Yeah, we're talking about John Wick. We're going to talk about our feelings.
And we're going to support each other emotionally during it.
Let me talk about raising your self-esteem, man.
Love it.
Oh man, we're just fighting the toxic masculinity, which John Wick fights against, even though he's a strong man. He's not there to be like, I'm just going to kill you because I can. He kills you because he needs to. That's the fact of the matter. Chapter 4. What a whirlwind. It is a little bit different, but a lot of the same. It is such a good installment, and I can forgive a lot of things for this. A lot of times I will downgrade things so hard, so fast if I get bored, as you guys have heard before. And this one had a lot of grace, I would say. So this film is fun. This film is fast. This film is important. Don't have to cast this one aside as a money grab. The story is continued, as is such with John Wick 1 to 2 to 3 and now to 4. So my final score for John Wick Chapter 4, 8.6 out of 10 kernels.
Ooh, we were close.
Very close.
I was wondering where it would land.
You squeezed out that 0.8. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Let's do a quick ranking of the John Wick movies, and I can go first because I've had slightly more time to think about it with you just now reading your thoughts. But for me, I'm going 1, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, okay. Got it. 1, 4, 3, 2 for you.
Yes.
Mine would be 1, 2, 4, 3.
Interesting.
I'll explain right now too, because
I'm
just going to explain my bottom one. It's because in John Wick Chapter 3, it has the most choreographed scenes that are not practical. And it made me angry.
Yeah.
So much of it is practical. It's the motorcycle fight scenes, like the extended motorcycle fight scenes, which is
and like
cool.
the knife throwing and stuff like that. That's the same one, right?
And I can get through the knife throwing because like that still takes coordination, but it's there are CGI knives. You're right. There are CGI knives thrown. I'm like, that's fine. I'm fine with that. It really gets down to some of the horse riding and the motorcycle scenes specifically is why 3 is on my bottom.
Yeah, I put 2 and 3 in a dead heat, honestly. And what pushes 3 over the edge for me is the final battle at the Continental, where Sharon is in full kill mode, and they're like using Continental as like, protect this fort. I just, that set piece is just epic.
I do love how they keep coming back into the vault when Winston is having a drink.
Yeah, and they're like more battered and more messed up every time. It's so good.
I need more ammo. And he's like, go, look around, select.
Oh man, what a franchise! It's just so fun. Gosh, I'm jealous of you because I really wanted to watch all the movies, but I had like some business travel and just overall busyness. And now I'm like, well, I want to do it again, but then I have to go back to the theater to watch 4 to cap it off, which is fine. I mean, I'm ultimately okay with that, but I need to get into it because it's just such a blast. Such Amazing. A blast. All right, let's get into this game, Kirk. I'm excited. The game is called Body Count, Kirk. I'm going to let you take it from here.
This is called Body Count. You know, with all of the films out in the world, it's always easy to wonder what has the most of what. We always think of things in superlatives, like not to be crass, but a lot of times people like to count cuss words in films.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? But whatever, we do it. We do it to find out where we place ourselves in the world and in conjunction with the art that we see. And of course, as is such with films where there are massive amounts of fatalities, right? Of how many bad guys die or how many people get killed on screen. And that this is, of course, something that people are always interested in. John Wick.
Yes.
I would do the body counts for John Wick. However, one of them is part of this contest. So Cam, you are going to go toe to toe with a couple of movies. I'm going to give you 2 movies.
Okay.
And you have to tell me which movie has the higher body count.
Ooh, okay.
And if you can guess the number within, let's say, 20 of what you think the body count is in the winning film, I'll give you a little prize. And I don't know what that prize is.
That's a lie.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Or maybe I will continue to bring you Nerds Gummy Clusters.
That's what I was going to say. Is it going to be a fun-sized bag of Nerds Gummy Clusters? If so, I will fight to the death to win it.
I always this has become our ritual, which is hilarious because it was just this year and a little bit back in 2022 is that they finally made the Nerds Gummy Clusters in not the giant bag, and so I was like, hey man, do you like these? I'll get you some. And every week I would just get them I would ask him, but now I've just gotten them for him to the point where Cam sat down and I just handed him the bag.
I didn't even say anything. Yeah, I was just like just took it.
Like, this is our night. This is how it must happen.
Yeah, it's true. And I bring nothing to this relationship. He gives me gummy clusters and I give him, I don't know, just like verbal abuse from time to time, something like that. There we go.
You give me company and then
I do buy the tickets a lot of times. I do buy I like not buy the tickets, but I arrange the tickets. Like you
handle the logistics of our movie going.
That's what I'll that'll be my contribution. That sounds almost fair.
So that's the bet. You get to continue to enjoy the gummy clusters,
yes.
Or if you fail miserably, I will forbid you 1 week of
I'm on parole.
Clusters.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that.
Yep. All right, here we go. The first one, the first battle, if you per se. Let's start with our wonderful review that we just got done with John Wick 4, Chapter 4, and The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise. Also has another family member another member of John Wick that I did not know was in it, but his name is Hiroyuki Sanada. And man, can that man fight.
Yeah, that dude's
so
awesome.
Which has the higher body count, John Wick 4 or The Last Samurai? And can you get close within 20?
No way I can get close. But man, that's a tough one. It's a tough one. They both are R-rated, if I remember correctly. Definitely. Yes. Thinking about The Last Samurai again. Definitely R-rated. I felt like the body count in Chapter 4 was absurd. I felt like it was extensive. Like even compared to previous John Wick films, like I feel like if you told me legitimately that more people died than words were said by John Wick in that movie, I wouldn't be totally surprised. I doubt that's the case, but I wouldn't be totally surprised. So I'm going to go John Wick Chapter 4. And I'm going to say the number's like, I don't know, 200.
Okay. You got your sound effects ready?
Yes.
You are incorrect.
Dang it.
That's okay. The tricky part with John Wick is that I think now this is on-screen kills. We don't always see the people die, right?
A lot of times it's just like kicking them in the head and they go on their merry way.
Right. And in The Last Samurai, there is an epic battle at the end of this film.
That's true.
Are you ready for this? Which one do you want first? I'm going to give you the loser first. John Wick 4 has a body count of 140 characters.
Ooh, okay. I wasn't that far off. It's not terrible.
The Last Samurai has 558 confirmed kills.
Confirmed kills. Unbelievable. Yes. I need to rewatch that movie. But yeah, there is. I remember that scene. But there's a lot going on there. So somebody must have slowed it down and been like, okay, they're looking at the back of the frame, watching people get murked. I respect it.
Like a knife through the head, beheading. Musket shot.
That's crazy, man.
Next one, the next battle. Of course, everyone's favorite director, Zack Snyder in the 300.
Oh, 300. Jeez Louise.
And Lord of the Ring, Return of the King. Just a heads up. These are big numbers.
Yeah, huge. Well, I almost certainly think it has to be Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Because you're talking about massive armies here. Massive armies of orcs, etc. And you see many, many, many of them die. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, the army of the undead comes through like a tornado from hell and just like kills everybody in like a giant cyclone. So I'm like, the body count has to be absurd. I'm going Return of the King, and I feel like the number is probably like almost certainly north of 10,000 in my opinion.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, you are correct on the film. Good job. It is Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Let's go the lower count. So 300, this is hilarious to me. The film 300 has 600 confirmed kills.
Wow.
Double the number of what it is.
Yeah.
And Lord of the Rings, Return of the King has 836
confirmed kills. That's what's going to throw me every time. It's like,
that's right.
I know they're fighting huge armies and many of them are presumed dead, but confirmed kills, yeah, that's probably fair.
Confirmed on-screen kills.
On-screen kills.
That's right. Now let's go to one that you would never suspect, this lineup. Are you ready at this battle?
Yes, I think so.
The first film, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Nice. That one I think is rated PG.
I believe it is.
Because I remember being like, how are they going to do this? But yeah, okay.
I think they not until like Prince Caspian do we get a PG-13 rating. Maybe even one after that.
Uh-huh.
And then keeping in with kids themed, the battle can only be up against a kids themed movie. Team America. I want to see the body count against Team America.
So I'm gonna have to say I'm betting the body count for both films is low. Like
it is low.
Sub 100.
Yes,
is where I would go.
And they're close. Yes,
and they're close.
Correct on all accounts.
Man, I'm gonna have to go Team America.
Okay,
but I'm gonna say the count's like 30.
Okay. Great guess. Incorrect.
Dang. My boy Aslan was messing people up.
You what, just chomping
them to bits.
Team America had 78 on-screen kills. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, PG, 86.
Yes. I love it. And not a single drop of blood. Not one. Not one drop of blood.
Not permitted, ladies and gents. Not permitted at all. Let's go with a big fan favorite. There are lots of, different ways to die in Star Wars.
Oh my.
I just suddenly thought of, the Dumb Ways to Die song. Yep. One of my faves out there in the social meds. And let's take a look at two films from the original trilogy. Okay. I want to know, Cam, which has a higher body count, Star Wars, A New Hope, Episode 4, or Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Episode 6.
So in Return of the Jedi, you've got you've got the pit. You've also got Endor. With the Ewoks. The Ewoks racked up a few on their own right, throwing spears and rocks at people and stuff. A lot of stormtroopers died in that battle.
They did,
for sure. But there's a decent amount of carnage in the first Star Wars movie. Rebels just getting messed up.
Not counting, Leia's home planet.
Right, Alderaan. Millions. No.
10 million.
I'm going to go Return of the Jedi just because I feel like there are tons of on-screen Sarlacc-related deaths and also, like during that battle, as well as Ewok deaths at the hands of the Ewoks.
I mean, a lot of people die by the Sarlacc, but as we know, there's someone who escapes it.
That's true. That's true. He doesn't actually die.
Yeah.
Do any of them die? Who knows?
Who knows? He can never digest them. He just spits them out. I don't know, a couple of weeks later, and we'll find out through all the extra spinoffs. This one was very close in numbers as well. A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Do you have a number, Cam?
Oh, I would say it's going to be way wrong. 105.
Okay, you're in the ballpark
for Return of the Jedi.
I when I was thinking of this as I was getting it ready, I was taking number guesses myself, and I was very wrong.
It's hard. Confirmed kills is hard.
Yes, and your choice is once again Return of the Jedi.
Yes,
that is incorrect.
Man, I think I only got one right.
You're so close. We'll do one more after this, but Return of the Jedi had 69 on-screen kills. Star Wars: A New Hope had 75. Just squeaked right above there.
Wow, that's tight. I think probably because when they end up on, in the Death Star in A New Hope, there's a decent amount of stormtrooper deaths happening there.
Yes.
Han Solo and Chewie take out quite a few on their own, actually, when they're in that one room. Yeah. That makes sense to me now.
Just a few more. Okay, final one. This one's great. This one's going to be lots of fun. You guys ready? It's going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark, ladies and gentlemen, and Titanic.
I recall a good number of people dying in Raiders. But Titanic, sheesh. There's one death I remember in Titanic very vividly to this day, and that's the one where the guy falls off the top, hits the propeller on the way down. Brutal.
Yes. It's one of those movie experiences where you are in shock and you're like, oh my gosh, this actually happened. And then audibly, the audience laughs in that moment because everyone's
can't
so
help
uncomfortable.
It's
I remember seeing, I was in speech team in high school, and there was this they were like making up like sequels that shouldn't be made, and Titanic was one of them, and they had to like sing a song, and the lyric goes, my favorite part was when that guy hit the propeller, and I tell you, one of the best jokes I've ever heard in my life.
So great. I love it. I'm going to go with Titanic. I'm going to take Titanic, and I would say I feel like the body count for that has to be sub 100. Closer to like 50, but that could be dead wrong. Okay.
I'm gonna give you another chance on your number there. I'm not gonna tell you if you're even right, if Titanic is the higher count or not.
Okay,
just remember it was a ship full of
people. I know it was, but how many of them do we see die?
Yeah. Well, we know 2, propeller guy and
All right, I'll go 140 because I feel like you're saying that because I'm way low.
Okay. I just wanted to give you the chance, but it doesn't matter because you are correct.
Yes.
Titanic outweighs the body count to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark has whopping 84.
Hey, that's respectable.
On screen, right? The first installment of Indiana Jones. And then, of course, Titanic has 307 deaths.
Holy sheesh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Because we know how many people die, and we see many of them die, I suppose.
And what better way to end the podcast than talking about the deaths of a real life story?
That's good.
I think that's the best way to give you a great upper optimistic view on life.
I was right about it. So I feel happy, even though all those people tragically died. Oh well. It was a long time ago. I wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eye at that point.
And your great grandparents.
Not even in that old lady from the Titanic's eye.
It's been 84 years.
Exactly. Great game, Kirk. I was absolutely abysmally horrible at it, but it was super fun. And it makes me, I have to go back and watch some of these now. I'm going to start counting. Actually, when we were watching John Wick, at one point he's given a gun and told that it holds 21 rounds. And I was counting to see if the reloads were on point, but it was hard to tell because they would cut and then he'd be doing something with the gun and you can't tell if he just reloaded or what have you. But this is what I need to do now is like go watch The Lord of the Rings and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because that's somebody's doing it apparently.
That's insane. It's insane. And then like I double checked these numbers too. Like I looked on multiple sources and the numbers match identically. So I don't know if they just trusted one guy to do it.
There is like an official bureau for these things out there. But seriously, I felt like so many people died in John Wick 4, but I guess you never know if somebody's like, I mean, some of them you definitely know are dead, but some you don't really know. So
final John Wick body counts per film. John Wick 1, 77. John Wick Chapter 2, 128. John Wick 3, Parabellum, 94. And John Wick 4, 140, taking the kill count to the next level.
Yeah, way up there. Interesting. That's good to know. Well, thanks, Kirk. That was a fun one. And thank you all for listening to our spoiler-free review of John Wick and our super fun body count game. If you perform better than me, which is highly likely, I would say, let us know what your score was on that. And if you were in the ballpark, I need to teach me your ways. Please teach me your ways. But we'll be coming at you again next week with our review of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is coming to theaters this week. Hard to believe that's already here, but it is. And we'll have What's Poppin' coming for you very soon to get back into the movie and TV news as well. But thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, we'll leave you with a special thanks to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs, as well as the fantastic band Rhetoric, who created our original music. Catch them anywhere you listen to music, and we will catch you next week.
Talk to you then.